Good afternoon and welcome to St Margaret's for the next in our series of 175th anniversary Inspirational Women Webinars, which we're running with the support of Aberdeen Standard Capital, to whom we extend our thanks. Today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Mary Contini OBE, author, chef, owner of Valvona Crolla and much loved figure in the Scottish food scene. Hi there, Mary.
Hello, hello, what beautiful singing. That was fantastic. Congratulations to all your girls.
That's really lovely. Well, it's so great to have you with us today, Mary, and I've got lots of foodie questions that I'm looking forward to asking you, but I know that there are plenty of people in our audience who will have things they'd like to ask you too. So I'm just going to say to people in the audience, please do submit any questions you have for Mary using the function on the right-hand side of your screen. But Mary, I just thought we might kick off this afternoon by me asking you just to give us a little introduction to your life and career. Would you do that for us?
I would. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I suppose people always ask me, where are our family from and why are we in Scotland and not in Italy? And the simple reason is that my father was born about 100 years ago in Italy, but because of poverty had to make their way for a new life. So we ended up for some reason in Cokenzie, a fishing village just outside Edinburgh. And it's quite bizarre because, you know, I think some people say that the immigrants were all from between Rome and Naples, very high in the mountains. Just maybe about 4 or 5 families started to immigrate. It was just the boys used to move and then bring back the rest of the family to wherever they settled. But my family, we ended up 8 children on top of an ice cream and fish and chip shop. So, wow. You know, the Sound of Music has got nothing on our upbringing. So it was very amazing. And, you know, the lockdown has really brought a lot back to me because we were allowed to roam along the beach, anything we wanted. The only thing we had to be back for dinner and for lunch. Breakfast was not a big thing in our house. So it was dinner and lunch, or lunch and dinner, whichever way you want to see it.
But so the thing was very important. Oh, food is very important from an early age.
8 children round. But when I was young, before I went to school, I just remember being in the ice cream shop and the smell of the ice cream and the vanilla and the hot milk that was being cooked. And you know, there was ice cream all the time, so we ate it non-stop. So we're high as kites all the time. But the thing was, we were brought up with Italian cooking. But in the shop, there was 2 Scottish ladies that were working with the family, and one in particular was from Peterhead. So it was just amazing, Peterhead. So Margaret Davison, her name was, and she never married, and she stayed with our family for all of her life. She said we were her bairns. But she gave us such a balance in our Italian upbringing, but also our Scottish upbringing. So she taught us how to make stovies and how to dance the Highland Fling. So I've got a real Scottish-Italian upbringing because my mum, obviously with 8 kids, couldn't see us all the way through. But the one thing my father did, which the other Italian families thought was a waste of time, was he decided to educate us. But he didn't even educate just the girls, the boys, he educated the girls as well. And he sent us all to single-sex St Margaret's Convent School in Edinburgh. And that was the thing. And the Italian community said, you know, if you educate your family, you'll lose them. And that was the fear. But actually, the education opened everything for me and left me with such opportunities. So that's amazing. And then when I got married, started to work in my family business, Valvona Crolla. The education that I had was something that the others didn't have, and that led me to be able to, you know, do cookery demonstrations, write about food, and eventually write lots of books. So, as they say, the rest is history.
Well, that's so lovely. Thank you for giving us that insight. I'm just really imagining that ice cream shop and the smell of the vanilla there. Yeah,
it was amazing, and we were on top of the shops. No, when we were on top of the shop, so we got up to all sorts of nonsense. If we wanted sweeties, we just put a basket on the outside, which was obviously the Italian way to do it. But we just went down, took all the sweets that we wanted, ice cream, pulled them up to the bedrooms. None of the girls to do that in school, I have to say.
And Mary, you must have seen a lot of changes in the way people approach food and trends in food in your lifetime and career.
I think that the thing, I was reflecting on this earlier, I think the thing that struck me is that when our family were really just post-war, and they're supposed to call a baby boomer. So when we started out, when I started out with my mother, we cooked the recipes at home that had been handed down, exactly the same. My grandmother taught me to cook those recipes. But the rest of the Italian recipes we didn't know about. So it was very much a local to the Abruzzo Mountains, is the food that we grew up on. But once I started working in the shop, and once I started, that's Valvona Crolla, and once I started with Philip, my husband, experiencing Italy as a whole, then we started to see the absolute amazing amount of food that was available. And at the same time, the Delia Smith and Antonio Carluccio and all these chefs were starting to hit the television screens, and myself sometimes as well. So food on the television was becoming a really big thing. So we were just at that point where people were starting to be interested. And it's taken a long time, because then, I mean, Delia was telling us how to cook an egg. And now everybody makes homemade pasta. You know, they just get the pasta machine out and make their own homemade pasta. So I think things have moved very, very fast, but also other cuisines have been introduced. So I think we're a unique country, maybe also America, but we're really interested in everybody's cuisine, not just our own. And, you know, we're interested in Chinese and French and Spanish.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think it's amazing.
So from what you said there are about 5 different questions in my head, but you know, let's pick up on the Italian theme for a minute. So for those people who are watching who have not yet been fortunate enough to visit Valvona and Crolla in Edinburgh, that's a definite thing to do once we can travel. And whenever I come to your shop, I'm just always excited by the wonderful range of produce that is there, both to buy and also to eat in the restaurant. And you put a lot of effort, don't you, into sourcing that produce, some of it from Italy, but also from Scottish producers as well. Will you tell us a bit about that? Yeah.
Well, I think when we first, the big change for us actually in the shop was the European Union, because before the European Union, the shop had to buy everything through London or locally. But once the European Union opened, I mean, Philip and I have had a ball. We could go to any part of Italy, to any trade show, and then meet up with small suppliers and then get food coming across directly from the suppliers. And the big thing for us was when we managed to get the fruit and vegetables coming from the Milan market, because we just went round the market with one other person, an Italian importer that we knew. And we went round, and Philip held, it is so incredibly big, the Milan fruit and vegetable market. It's beautiful. But we went round and we thought, well, how can we start? There was whole, millions of producers and suppliers. And then Philip heard a Neapolitan voice, because his family are from Naples. And once he heard that, he says, oh, right, we'll talk to these people. And that was the first person we talked to. And they're the people we still import from. So I think the story is that, when you're looking for suppliers, it's not just the thing that they're producing that counts. It's the personality and the trust between the supplier. And the suppliers that we've been dealing with for 30, 40 years, but still looking for new ones. In fact, there's a new flour supplier that I'm talking to just now. And I emailed him because I've known about his organic flour from the northeast of Italy. And I emailed him just because I had nothing to do one afternoon. I thought, I'll just go to talk to him. So I emailed him. And he goes, oh, I've always wanted to come to supply you because my wife's from Edinburgh and we always visit your shop. So there's another supplier.
That's a lovely connection, isn't it? And what's happened over the last year? Because obviously, as a food supplier, you've been able to stay open. I think with perhaps restricted hours, and have you managed to maintain that supply of those lovely Italian fruit and vegetables?
It's quite funny, the timing of everything, because this time last year we had started to stockpile because of Brexit, because Brexit was supposed to happen that same time. So we had a lot of extra stock in. And then when they said, there's a pandemic, we thought, this isn't true. I mean, you just couldn't believe it at the beginning.
No.
We thought, well, we'll just have to lock everything down because we're worried about our staff and our health for everybody at the time.
Yeah.
But my daughter, Francesca, she was very canny. She said, no, because she's now 41 years old with 2 children. And she said, no, Mum and Dad, you go and stay at home and I'll take over. And so she kicked us out. And she just bravely, with a core team, just took over and just started to keep supplying. And we had enough to keep us going for maybe 2 months, and then started to be able to import again. But it's been difficult. But people, you know, have been, the funniest thing was in the height of it, she got a phone call from London from a very distraught man who said that he'd just got a new pizza oven, and did we not have pizza flour because no one in London had pizza flour. So we had to send 1 kilo of pizza flour to London. And you just think, you know, the world's gone mad.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I think it's more important than that.
And it's worth people knowing as well, as you know, I have proved in the past that you can have things sent to you in Aberdeen, can you not, Mary, if you wish?
Thank you for reminding me, because that was the one thing that happened with the lockdown, was people couldn't come to the shop, and they were phoning saying, can you deliver? And we did have an internet service, but actually that has been incredible. And at the beginning, it was just piles and piles of food. We had one last fruit and vegetable order came in the second week of lockdown, and it was beautiful because they had baskets. The shop was closed at that time. We closed, I think, for 2 months, but there was baskets and boxes everywhere with orders of lettuce and lemons and things just to go all over the country, and a lot up to Aberdeen, a lot up north actually, because a lot of the customers used to come down and collect things. So yes, so a very good sign. Just phone or look online.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's move on then. You mentioned when you were just giving us that little introduction, some celebrity chef names, people appearing on the television. I remember a very happy event, I don't know, it must be 15, 16 years ago, and coming to hear Nigella Lawson in one of your restaurants. And she just stood up and spoke for about half an hour, and then we all had a delicious dinner. Is there anybody in particular that, you know, people watching might know the name of, who's influenced your cooking over the years, Mary?
Well, I suppose the real people that influenced me was my mother-in-law, and Philip's grandmother in Italy, who was 80 when I knew her, but she taught me Neapolitan cooking. But in terms of the chefs, I think the original chefs that came on screen, so people like Rick Stein and Antonio Carluccio, Rose Gray from River Cafe. So these people very much, you know, were, and they all, you know, Rose and Ruth came up to the shop to launch their first River Cafe book in our back shop. That was before we opened the cafe. So we were really lucky that people came, and then we got lots of, you know, the hairy bikers came and did lots of different programs. But I think these are the ones that I think still I could refer to. I never met Elizabeth David, but I met Anna Del Conte. I don't know if you know her. Who's very good Italian, and she's wonderful. And she's a really classic Italian madame. She's so sophisticated. She's always dressed beautifully. She fancied my father-in-law.
And have you passed on these recipes from you know, your mother and from Philip's mother and grandmother? Have you passed these on to your daughters and to your family, Mary?
Yes, to be honest, I mean, you know that I've written lots of books with the recipes, and that came about, and that's one of the things I wanted to say to any of the young people that are listening. It just came about, someone phoned the shop and said, you know, do you know anyone who could write a column this week, because our usual food columnist was unwell. And I said, oh, I'll do it, silly me. And then I you know, and I think that's a sort of go-to can-do attitude that can actually open doors. And I did that column, and then they said, oh, do you want to do it every week? And from there, then I got to do my first cookery book, and then did 8-9 books since then. So I've written down all the recipes, but the other side of it is the girls have always cooked with me. But now my little grandchildren, especially the wee boy, Alfie, he's 7, and he loves cooking, loves his food. He did get his hand caught in the aga and had to go to the hospital, but apart from that, he's been doing very well.
Watch the risk assessment there then.
The risk assessment. But the thing is that I think the one thing about cooking with children, that was one of the big things that inspired me when I was younger, was that, you know, the children weren't getting to talk about food in school. They weren't talking about, you know, a healthy diet. And then it started to come, but they still weren't getting the practical experience that they had in the past. So that was one of my first books that I wrote, was Easy Peasy Cooking with Prue Irvin, to let children just cook real food, not cakes and things, but real recipes.
Well, the questions come in from our audience, and that is, do you have a favourite recipe to cook for your family?
All right, well, I'm afraid it's called socks.
Okay.
So, yeah, exactly.
Tell us about socks.
Socks are rigatoni with a homemade tomato sugo, so that's a ridged, thick pasta. And my grandmother used to, when I was a kid, she used to knit all the time. And she used to knit socks, but she couldn't do the corner. So she had all these tubes of knitting in the drawer. And for some reason, they looked like the pasta. So we make socks every Sunday, and Florence comes, and if there's not socks on the menu, she's not happy.
She's really disappointed.
Just to say, the recipe is exactly the same from when my grandmother taught me. So it's just really, it's in the book.
Okay, sounds delicious. And in your fridge, Mary, what would you always have in your fridge at home?
Right, I'll always have drawerfuls of vegetables, salads, fennel, not so much aubergines and courgettes because Philip doesn't like them, but always salad. Radicchio I'm absolutely passionate about, so, and bitter greens and things. And I'll always have Italian butter, and I'll always have Parmigiano Reggiano and Pecorino, which is sheep's milk cheese.
Yes.
And then just usually I'll shop for 1 day or 2 days, so if I'm going to make meat or fish, I'll buy that daily. So
yes,
it's just full of vegetables, to be honest. And it's interesting about Italians don't talk about vegetarian eating because in the Italian diet there's a very high use of vegetables. So tonight, for example, I'm having to show off here. So tonight I've got I've got beans. I've made some pasta fagioli, which is pasta with bean soup. So I've cooked the beans separately, and I've got courgettes that I sautéed with oil and garlic. So, and I'll have a salad. So that's what we'll have tonight, which the rest is.
It sounds absolutely delicious to me. I was going to say to you, and for the busy head teacher who's been here a long time already and will be here for quite a long time yet, what would be a quick but healthy meal when you get home?
When you get home, well, I tell you what I do. I know that you love the pasta with the courgettes, which is so easy.
I do. The spaghettini, yeah.
Spaghettini. But I think what I do have, I always have some chicken stock in the freezer because pastina in brodo, if you're tired and you're just exhausted, really good chicken stock and some very light pastina, which is tiny pasta, and with some egg stracciatella, so an egg mixed with Parmigiano and some chopped parsley, just sautéed. It's the most delicious meal, and you don't even have to worry about cooking because it's just my only time I defrost anything.
I don't know about anybody who's watching, but my mouth is watering just listening to you talk about these things. The pandemic's obviously brought some people into the kitchen, hasn't it? Some people have been cooking more than they've cooked in their life. Have you seen any change of trends in the sort of things that people are buying in the shop?
I think what we found amazing is that people have all of a sudden taken all the information they've been fed on television, because the whole thing was that people used to say, watch television, but they never cook. But what was wonderful was the information was there. Everyone had bought the cookery books from everybody, and then they needed the ingredients. So, it was almost like everyone had been educated the last 30 years, just ready for this pandemic. And the big change we saw was people were looking for tinned tomatoes, flour, they wanted to bake, and then olive oil, and a huge desire for good olive oil, because that's one thing about cooking, is that the easier the recipe, the better the ingredients, the easier it is. So that makes a huge difference. And people, especially our customers, have been brought up with our palate. They want specific ingredients. But what's been wonderful is that people have all the local shops near me, and I'm sure the same up beside you, the local food shops have been so much busier. And they've found their markets again, and they've had people coming, queuing up at the butchers, queuing up at the fishmongers.
Absolutely.
And that to me is fantastic, and we really have to stick with that and don't revert to picking stuff up at the supermarkets again. By all means, buy something, but if you get your ingredients from your local supplier, it just makes all the difference. Get the fish from the local fishman up in Peterhead.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice, Mary. We've got more questions coming in, so I'm just going to check some of them and make sure that we're answering everything that everybody would like to know. Oh yes, what's your views on learning another language? Do you think this opens up opportunities?
Now, this is my nemesis. This is where I have failed miserably, because I cannot speak Italian, and it is shocking. I know there's a headmistress in you looking and saying, okay.
I thought you were going to start speaking in Italian to me.
It's terrible. So my daughter Olivia can speak Italian, French, Chinese. She studied to China. She's got an ear and she can speak language, and my husband can speak. But in our family, my family never spoke to us in Italian. Because after the war, I think they just wanted us to be Scottish. They didn't want us to be, you know, connected with the things that happened during the war. So we didn't speak Italian at home. So I can slice salami in Italian. But it's terrible. But when I go to Italy, I can start to speak and I gain courage. And I really, if I had a year in Venice, I could speak at the end of that. So I'll go into
You obviously encouraged Olivia, though, to take up those opportunities, which she really pursued.
But I think she had an ear for it, so it was natural for her. So Francesca speaks Italian, but not as interested. Her brain is more mathematical and scientific. So that's the excuse. It's not our fault, because our brains are wrong.
Well, we encourage everybody to keep going with the language and to really, you know, find enjoyment in that through the senior school. So any linguists watching will be rejoicing at that thought.
So do you teach Italian at school?
No, we don't at the moment. We have done in the past. German and Spanish and French are our main languages at the moment. And we sometimes do some work with the Confucius Institute at the university.
So do you think Mandarin? I'm going to ask you questions. Do you think Mandarin will
Okay, Mary.
do you think Mandarin will be important going forward?
I think it can be very important. I mean, obviously, it's one of the most spoken languages in the world, isn't it? I mean, I think you know that I've worked with people who have really put a lot of time into learning Mandarin. And one of the interesting things that I found was that sometimes young people who found learning a European language difficult actually found an affinity, a different sort of affinity with learning Mandarin.
That's interesting. Yeah. Olivia said this is not the conversation we should be having, but she said it's with pictures, so you learn it with a visual sort of view to learning rather than trying to do tenses.
Yes, which obviously appeals to some people. And you're right, we do all have different strengths in terms of our learning, but I do think that we can actually, if we put effort in, we can develop those strengths.
I will put effort in, I promise.
No. But we can do more than just play to our strengths. Is what I mean. It's this, we call it growth mindset. It's the idea that we're not fixed, and that we basically trying to sort of encourage development in whatever area people are looking for. Gosh, now the questions are flooding in. Right, okay, you'd like this one, Mary. What advice would you give someone who's interested in pursuing a professional cooking career, perhaps with a view to restaurant ownership?
Well, there you go. What I would advise them is that it is extremely hard work, but extremely rewarding. And the doors are open with the kind of people that you can meet. So the more you try and the more you succeed, the more interesting your life becomes. So I think that it's not just a cooking or feeding experience, it's a very social experience. And I was thinking about this earlier, and what I would say is that, first of all, don't you see yourself as a woman or a man. See yourself as a person and make sure that you just do the best you can. But also head for the top, because the people that head for the top get there. So that's my advice. So don't be a KP, be a head chef.
I think that's great advice to anybody listening. Completely different type of question now, and one that I'm interested in too. It says, please can you recommend an Easter dessert?
All right. Now, I thought about this as well, because it's very difficult. Yes, because I've got to cook lunch for Easter, because we'll have it out in the garden. Because I think what I think is really nice just now is to you're looking as if you really did a good idea here.
Yeah, go for it.
To try and make some lemon curd. because
lovely.
I think one of my favourite desserts, which I got in oh, by the way, Yotam Ottolenghi, he's my favourite chef of all time, so we love him. So he's my boyfriend, but that's different from being a chef. But he serves a meringue with lemon curd inside, with some mint on top, which is absolutely stunning. I think the recipe's in his books. We'll do a plug for Yotam, but that's delicious.
Delicious.
Lemon curd, nice Sicilian lemons available on Valvona Crolla website.
Absolutely, that's a lovely fresh sounding dessert, isn't it? And I'm guessing that you will be serving lamb at Easter, will you, as a traditional
Well, there's
Easter
a problem
dish?
now, you see, because lamb is what we would serve. And the thing is that in Scotland, the lamb aren't ready for the table yet. So other than in the past, there was 1 or 2 farms used to give us a sly lamb, but at the moment I don't have that connection. So we won't be having lamb, which is really disappointing, because to have a baby, they call it a bacchio in Italy, and the best place to go for it, I have to tell you a secret, the best place to go is go to the Vatican on Easter Sunday, and then when you come out after Mass, I have to think of this carefully, turn left, first left, and go round and follow, this is the truth, follow the priests. And there's a restaurant that's very quiet and you wouldn't recognise it, but they all go into that restaurant. And that restaurant is a trattoria. It serves a bacchio, which is very, very young lamb. I mean, tiny, tiny. The chops are sort of tiny. And they put it in the oven with wine and rosemary and what else do they put in it? Also a wee bit garlic and olive oil and roast it till it's really falling off the bone. And it's just wonderful. So if we can all go there, we'll see you there.
You've not been to Italy for quite a while, I guess, in the current circumstances.
Usually, normally we would be in Italy every six to 8 weeks, and more as we've been getting older. I mean, it's just, so we've not been for, the last time I was abroad was in Seville, funny enough, because we went to Seville last January. We've never been to Spain in my life. And I thought, right, I need some sunshine. I'm going to go to Seville. And we're going, why are we going to Spain? And actually, it was wonderful. And there are oranges everywhere. And funny enough, we went there and we went to, there's Philip and I, and we went to see some flamenco dancers. And next door on the table next to us was Shirley Spear, which many people will know from the Three Chimneys in Skye. And I haven't seen Shirley for years. And there she was in the middle of Seville, because she thought the same as me. Where can we see nice oranges and see some sunshine?
So going back to Easter Sunday then, lamb's not on the menu. No. We've got that lovely lemony dessert. What will the main course be, Mary?
What we'll have is, if it was me, and I wasn't feeding Florence, so we'll feed Florence separately. We'll have a risotto with artichokes and prawns. So we'll get the prawns from the boats, because I live near the sea. And we'll have prawns, and I'll make a nice risotto with lemon and artichokes or asparagus, and that'll be our starter. And then I hate to tell you, but we'll probably have roast beef.
Sounds good to me.
I know, but so if we can't have roast lamb, we'll have roast beef.
We'll have roast beef. Cooked in an Italian way, or will it be traditional British with Yorkshire pudding? Oh yes. Absolutely. Even though I'm from Lancashire, I'm very fond of a Yorkshire pudding. Yes. Fantastic. Yeah, this is quite a challenging question, I think. What do you think the greatest challenges are facing the food and beverage industry over the coming years as we come out of this pandemic and hopefully recover?
I think, to be honest, I think we'll recover really fast from the pandemic, because I think people, I mean, what do we all want to do? We want to go to our favourite restaurant and to have, to go back to all the places that we really love. So I think the restaurants that have survived will actually do well. I think the small businesses will do well, because people now have got a taste and an understanding of the difference between fresh fish from the fish monger or going. But I think the one challenge is global warming. I think that's the challenge, that importing from Italy is going to be a challenge in the future, justifying it, and the whole thing of what we eat and how much meat we eat. But I think naturally we're eating more vegetables, and we're eating beans, and we're eating different more eggs and things. So I think people will naturally move away from eating meat every day, they already have. I don't think it's a challenge. I just think I think the people in the food industry are so talented that we'll be nudged gently to where we should be.
So you're encouraging us to embrace these changes then, aren't you, really?
Well, the thing is that's something that you said, in one of the questions, what was the biggest challenge of my career? But actually, in food, everything's a challenge, because everything has to be fresh, has to be looked after, has to be sourced responsibly. So, you know, that is a challenge all the time.
Yeah.
But when you get it right, it's worth the bother.
Absolutely. And I know you work with quite a few Scottish producers as well as Italian ones, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And we buy, in fact, I've been speaking to Francesca this morning. At this time of year, we start to buy, not yet, but maybe in a month or two, we start to buy more produce, fresh food, vegetables from Scotland rather than going to Italy. We're getting the first asparagus from Patullo up in Aberdeenshire, I think he is. So that should be coming in about 2 weeks' time. So yes, but also we use all the local beef and fish producers. But we use all the cheese suppliers, and there's so many wonderful cheese suppliers. We
are very fortunate in Scotland, aren't we? We're very fortunate in Scotland, Mary, that, you know, if people know where to find things, you know, there's some wonderful produce.
There's fabulous produce, and I have to say the Italians wouldn't have stayed if the food wasn't good. And none of us, of the immigrant families, from four immigrant families 100 years ago, there's now 250,000 Italians living in Scotland. And we thought this was really funny because we were taken and I think the Italians have changed the way the Scots have eaten. They've introduced them to our cuisine. But I think they wouldn't have stayed if the food wasn't good. If the ingredients weren't there, they'd have all been back. So.
And what's always very clear, I think, in your recipes is just how important it is to eat seasonally as well, to make the most of the ingredients that are fresh at any certain time.
Yes, and that's natural. You saying, what we eat at Easter, normally that's natural, that we'll look for these vegetables, look for asparagus and artichokes and things. And I think that's also, maybe, I used to speak to Clarissa Dixon-Wright. She's a great friend of ours. And she used to be a great supporter, but I used to talk to her about why the Scots don't eat, we don't eat our own fish. We do now, but not then. Why don't we have a passion for food? And she said it was because the Scottish people were serving the landowners and cooking for them and not getting the best. Whereas in Italy, they say that the Pope, or not so much the Pope because he's not Italian, but when it was an Italian Pope, the Pope and the pauper used to eat the same food, the same rigatoni at lunchtime. Just an attitude to I don't know, class, I suppose.
And it's also really placing a priority on, what you put into your body, isn't it? And, during recent times, I think we've perhaps reflected a little bit more on well-being and particularly sort of mental well-being. Have you got any advice for us on how we eat to feel well, not just physically, but mentally as well?
I think I used to also talk to Clarissa about addiction and about the dependency of things, and she said that it really, unless you're actually diagnosed as an alcoholic or you're an addict, that is a different thing. That in normal population, it's really sugar that is the thing that we're addicted to. And it's sugar literally that is the thing that makes us nervous and makes us anxious and makes us go high and low. So I think, if we can cut down on sugar, if anything, it actually stops craving and your weight can stabilise. It's less likely that you'll go over the top with your weight. So I think, unfortunately, having been brought up on an ice cream and fish and chip shop, the sugar thing is not something that I can do. But it is, sugar is the big thing that we're all addicted to, and that's the thing we have to worry about.
And of course, there's a lot of that in processed food, isn't there? So, your simple recipes, going back to really good ingredients, fresh ingredients, are going to have natural sugar in them, but far less refined sugar. And
I think also, having a proper breakfast can actually help. It's a bit boring, but if you have porridge at breakfast without a lot of sugar on top of it, that stabilizes your mood and your gut for the whole day. And you can have a proper lunch and have a meal. And you really shouldn't meals, because then you come back starving at night, and you know what it's like. Every packet of biscuits and every chocolate box is like munched away at, so
Yeah.
not good. But always
We
have
would,
ice cream in the freezer. That's the only thing I'd advise.
you would always have advice. I'm going to take you up on that advice, Mary. You received an OBE in the Queen's birthday honours.
I did.
Can you tell us? Well, congratulations first of all.
Oh, thank you.
And how did that feel? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was just at the beginning, the middle of lockdown, and we were not in touch with anyone. And I got an email through, and I thought it was a spam email. I think people say that, and I thought, oh, I'll just delete this, because I have to delete everything that I don't expect. But luckily, I showed it to Philip, and it said that I'd been awarded the OBE, and why I don't know, but I'm completely honoured and privileged, as people say. But I spent all of last year trying to work out what outfit I would wear, but I don't think we're going to get to go to the palace at all. So I know, but it's such an honour. It's very, very,
yeah, very, very special indeed. Absolutely. Special. I've got a nice question coming here. In your business, how do you combine heritage with innovation, Mary?
Well, I think it's just appetite is the answer to that. Our heritage is in our system and in our genes, but it's appetite that is innovative about our business. We just want to always find something new to eat and find something that's different, and also bring to the public, bring to customers what we've found. So we're actually not as driven by profit, more as experience. I think we're classed as a lifestyle business, which means
yes.
it's all to do with how we enjoy it. And even Francesca has closed on a Sunday now, because she said she's got 2 young children, and she says we don't want to open on a Sunday. We want to be really good the other days and enjoy a day for the staff and for us of family time. I don't know if she'll change it. But yes, we've always been innovative, and I think we've always been in touch with the market and paying attention. And I think we're not impressed as a family by packaging and fancy labels and things. We're really, I mean, we do tastings all the time of everything, and all the time. So we get samples and we taste it, and it's very instant whether we think it's a goer or not. So,
what really comes across when you talk about your business and you talk about food is that this is a vocation. This is your life. These are your interests, as opposed to it being about a job. And I think it's fantastic when people can find that in life, because it's so much easier, isn't it, to innovate and to take things forward if you really believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, I think so. I think when I told my father that I was going to marry Philip, or asked if I could marry Philip, my dad said, "Oh no, don't do that, because you'll end up behind the counter." And he had educated us, because he didn't want us to be behind the counter. Not that he didn't want that, but he knew that it was a difficult way of life, and it's an unselfish way of life. It's like being in the hospital. You have to give all the time. But the pleasure from it is immense, and because the business now is nearly 90 years old, so there's so much heritage there, there's so much experience, and that's great, because if you need to find something, you just phone someone up and say, do you know someone who can do that, and you get the answer. So I think that's very lucky. So that's why it's enthusiastic.
You must feel proud as well that your own family are also taking the business forward as well.
Well, I mean, Francesca went to St George's in Edinburgh, and she trained. That's my older daughter. She trained as a pharmacist and got a fantastic first-class degree, St George's single-sex education, focused, got her degree, and she ended up in St Ormond Street. And then one week she came home and said, came up from London to visit, and she says, "I'm joining the business." I think she was 26 or something. And we said, "No, you're not. You're not going to do that." She said, "No, everybody always wants to know, not about what I think about my pharmacist degree, but what I think about the business, Valvona Crolla." So she joined. But Olivia, I think she's working in the shop just now. There's 15 years between the two girls. And Olivia, she wanted to go and do something different, but she's in the shop just now because she doesn't have another job, but we don't know what will happen with her. But it's great, and it's great. And I think wee Alfie is definitely taking over. He does his profit and loss accounts in school instead of his son. So we've got the next generation.
It's all shaping up well there, Mary, isn't it? So I've got another question for you that's come in from one of our listeners. It says that throughout lockdown, high-end restaurants have been offering a dine-at-home experience, which has been really popular. Do you think that could be a game changer going forward?
Well, I think they will still do it. I think it will be something that's still offered, because I think it's a very good way to just continue expanding the brand of every restaurant. But I don't think anything can make up for being in a restaurant and the whole experience of being looked after and of being romanced by the waiters and the ambience and all the rest of it.
Yeah. The whole experience can't be gained necessarily from being at home, can it?
Not really.
Got a little reference here to Alexander McCall-Smith coming in. Did the business benefit from its exposure in the best-selling Alexander McCall-Smith novels?
Well, that's another lovely story from the shop, because years ago we got an email through and it said, I'm Sandy McCall-Smith, do you mind if we put a piece in about the shop in the book? We didn't know who Sandy was, and we didn't know anything about his other books, and we just thought it was quite fun, so we said, oh, that's fine. And then from there he's put us in every single book, and we're now great pals and great friends, and he's actually had in the book doing things and become a character in the book. But I think with that, what is really, I'm eternally grateful to Sandy, we get customers from all over the world come.
Do you really? Yes.
Come into the shop and they stand at the shelf where the Giv olive oil is, and they go, oh, and they sort of tremble, and I love going up to them and saying, yes, and I'm in the book too, and they go, oh. But that's just the fun of the shop. I think because the shop is so unique, I think there's so much fun that we get with people doing things and coming, and it just, so that's just a great, we see Sandy once a year for an anniversary dinner, which is really fun. So
you have people who are regular shoppers on a weekly, probably sometimes daily basis, and then people who come on a special pilgrimage to be able to visit you. Yeah,
which is nice. Which is what we were saying about the importance of restaurants in society. Is that you know yourself, if there's a favourite restaurant in Spain or in Italy, you always go back if you've had a nice experience.
Yes.
So the restaurant trade, apart from supporting the farmers and the fishermen and all that wonderful thing that they do, it's an absolute ambassador for the town and the city. And it's so cool. Thank you, Rishi, for giving us our furlough money. I'm sure you feel that as well.
You're absolutely at the heart of Edinburgh, that is for sure. Now, I'm going to just chat to you for a minute, Mary, just about another cause that's close to your heart and that you've introduced me to recently, which is the charity Their World. Would you just tell us a little bit about that charity? It's all about girls' education, isn't it?
Yes. Well, Their World was founded by Sarah Brown, who's Gordon Brown's wife, the ex-Prime Minister, I think 22 years ago. And originally she founded it because she lost a child very, I think very young. Yeah. And it was very traumatic for her. And we'd known them, they'd been customers for years. And she started a charity called Piggy Bank Kids to support neonatal babies and children that are born too soon. And then from that, she just developed it and realised that the whole thing for children, especially children of countries where there's wars, is that if they weren't getting educated, and the statistics about education and lack of education are horrendous. And it's an incredible charity because with her influence over these years, she gathers voices from all over the world and tackles governments to save the children in as much as get them educated. And in particular for girls, because if girls are not educated and are not safe in schools, then their lives, I mean, their lives are horrendously difficult. So that's a great charity. It's called Their World. Please look online and support it, even just to see what they do. It's incredible.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. And it's a charity that we're going to support more here at St Margaret's over the coming years, definitely. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you, Mary. That time has just zipped by, and you know, you've just conveyed to us such enthusiasm for life, actually, and you know, such love not only of food but of your customers and of your family and of all the work that you do. So we're just so grateful to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, that was painless. Thank you so much, Anna.
It was painless, wasn't it? It was actually really enjoyable, and we're all going away with some ideas to freshen up our own recipes, I'm sure. We'll say thank you again to Aberdeen Standard Capital for their support, and the next in this series, we're looking forward to meeting Melanie Reid, the Times journalist and disability campaigner, and that is on the 22nd of April at 5 o'clock. But Mary, we're going to end today with a little video of you cooking. And also we've managed to slip into that, and you'll be pleased to know, a little video at the end as well about the Their World charity, so we can share that with everybody who's watching. But a huge thank you to you from all of us, and a big thank you to everybody who's logged in at home as well to join us this afternoon. So you and I are going to come off the screen now. We're going to press our buttons again so that we can play this video. Okay.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mary. Bye-bye.
So we've got Alfie and Harris today going to get some brilliant cooking lessons from Mary Contini, who has penned a new book, Easy Peasy. And I want you to tell me why it's important to you that children know how to cook from scratch, to cook good fresh food.
The thing is that it's such an easy way for parents to help, or carers to help with children, to learn about where food comes from, how to make it, and also to participate, because if they get involved in the process of making it, they're much more likely to taste it at the end.
At nursery, we have a discover of food and the action of a kitchen.
That's right.
Parents who want to cook with their children at home can cook. Where do they start?
Just anything. The easiest thing to start with is to just make a soup or make a pasta sauce rather than you know, open a jar.
Yeah.
3 or 4 ingredients, just tomatoes, garlic and olive oil. You can make an easy pasta sauce, and then there's lots of stirring and chopping and things, so it's great fun. We can crack an egg first each, and then we'll put the flour in the middle and we'll put the eggs in. So we crack it on the side, and then we catch it like that, and we try and catch the yolk bit, you see? And then
I only like to put the yellow bit in too.
Yeah, so try and see if you can get the yolk bit out of the white bit. Catch it and put it in here. Oh, well done, Alfie!
Well done!
To teach about flavours, to teach about cooking, and to make it not frightening to cook, because really it's very easy.
What do you have to do now?
You have to stir it now. To be fair, it's quite a lot of work because you've got to do it.
But worth it.
Worth it, but in terms of cost, if you're making your own sauce, it's so much cheaper. Well done, Harris, look at that. Just starts, the egg just pulls the flour in. Well, there's so much more to do because people... So you have, lovey.
I think they just like making a mess.
I think they're doing really well.
That's one of the best things about it, is fresh, simple food. I think we forget how good it is for us as well with little processed food.
We may forget it.
Hey!
We just need to learn how to say it now.